Hey, Dave.
Hey, there we are.
Welcome to the show. Hey, we're on time today, which is good.
We're almost on time.
Well,
we're a minute late.
3 minutes late. Okay. Welcome to Duluth Conservative. Now, before we start, this is a show that is for a couple guys, and sometimes we have guests to talk about Duluth news, stuff that happened in the last week, Duluth, Minnesota, national, international, and then we follow it up with some health and fitness because that's kind of important for people. Dave, how would you describe our show? I'm going to put you on the spot.
What was that?
How would you describe our show?
I've been telling people that it's there we go. I had some technical difficulties. I've been basically telling people that it's news that you don't normally hear from the mainstream media, and a lot of discussion about from the conservative side how it's applicable to your life and stuff like that. So
okay.
That's how it's been described.
Yeah, I think that's a good description. Hey, if you can, turn up your volume just a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so let's go through the show, and we'll talk about things that are going on in Duluth. First, I want to do the opening thoughts. I like to get these things out of the way. And we're talking about the protests that have been going on the last couple of weeks, and we're going to cover a lot of stuff today, but we'll go over the protest stuff. I've seen a lot of people saying, and the governor and the mayor of LA saying, by bringing the National Guard here, you're actually provoking these violent attacks. There wouldn't be violent attacks if you didn't actually have law enforcement here, which on the surface of it is just not true. We've seen that time and again when there isn't police presence that they will just go after them. Anyway, but it's kind of the same thing as saying, if a woman's wearing a short skirt, she's kind of provoking people to attack her. Or, hey, if you're walking around with a nice suit on or driving a nice car, you're kind of asking for it to be stolen. It's kind of the same vein, and that doesn't seem right to me. But I think it's a ridiculous argument just to begin with.
Yeah, because the perfect example is the Chad area in Portland, Oregon, and they banned all cops. Even ambulances wouldn't go in there, and they had violence there every single day because they knew the cops were
killing there, right? Or was
that?
Was it a killing? Was that in Seattle or Oregon?
I'm not sure what started it. I think it was the George Floyd riots, which started the Portland and Seattle. But Portland came out with this Chad area. I thought it was, unless it was Seattle, but either or, the cops wouldn't go in there, and there was violence every day. So,
right,
their argument is completely nonsense.
I want to kind of bring something else up that I've seen. It's kind of related. So before we get in the news, I've seen this thing where they say 8647. The left has been saying that, and people have taken that as being a direct threat to President Trump. 47 being he is the 45th and 47th president of the United States, and 86 meaning to get rid of him, and apparently violently. And I'm going to show X posting by Laura Loomer. No Kings protesters in D.C. are calling for the assassination of President Trump from the security line. Entrance of the military parade. They're holding signs to say 8647. Now, this is my take on it. I haven't heard anybody else say this, but I'll see what you think, Dave. 86ing somebody does not mean killing them. Doesn't mean assassinating. It just means getting rid of them. Like when you 86 somebody out of a bar, and that's where I've only heard the context of it. It's throwing them out into the street, get them out of there. And I think this is just political hyperbole and just ridiculous over. Now, I understand kind of why you're doing it. Now, I understand that the left does this all the time, and the right is taking that playbook and going into it. But for me, it just doesn't sit right. It seems kind of silly to say that. It's not. They're not trying to kill him. Not with this. What do you think?
Well, when James Comer, the former Attorney General for the whole federal U.S., seen it in the sand a few months ago.
Yeah.
So he just magically the most powerful lawyer in the world magically just happens to run across this. I don't buy that for a second.
Yeah. I don't buy that either. I'm not saying that that's right. I mean, that was all set up. That was pathetic too.
So he's, he knows what it stands for. He's been around enough. It just means get rid of him. Yeah.
Get rid of him, right.
Just get rid of him.
They're adding on the violent part. So I don't believe it. I don't think that's right. But all right.
Yeah.
Well, let's we've got more violent stuff to talk about today. So I want to start off with the Duluth news. And I want to start out with something positive, which is the Grandma's Marathon is going to be happening on Saturday here in Duluth. And it's always fun to have this happening. Now, we're downtown right now. Downtown's pretty busy. And unbeknownst to me, laden in fog. So yes. I came up over the hill, beautiful sunny day. It felt great. Came over the hill. It's foggy. So people are getting a nice taste of what Duluth is like.
Well, on the bright side, all of this should be okay until late Saturday or Sunday, when Sunday is supposed to be almost 90 in Duluth.
Oh, yeah.
So it's good that we're getting the crappy weather now. I'd rather run in this than run in 90-degree heat.
Yeah, I prefer running in 90-degree heat, but not long distances.
Yes, and the Twin Cities, they're going to be in the 90s Saturday and Sunday, where it's supposed to rain the morning of the race. That'll keep it cool. The wind's coming off the lake. High is 72. It's about as good as you want to, hot as you want it to be for running.
That's pretty. It's going to be pretty nice.
Yeah.
The last year we ran it together was like perfect. It was like, I think it was like high 50s in the morning. It was just, and it was a tailwind the whole time. So that was nice. But it's great to have Grandma's here. And so they have a lineup of flags over by the pier or by the deck. And one thing I noticed, and I want to call it and say it's so nice to see, is the old Minnesota flag is still flying in that lineup.
Oh, really? That's excellent.
Yeah. And it's battered up. So it's a choice. They could have replaced it with a brand new flag, but they decided to keep the old one, which is, to be honest with you, it looks so much better to me.
Yeah, the new one is horrible, and that was another 80-20 issue where people didn't like it, but they did it anyways. So
they did it, and it was when they had the trifecta, and that was what they found important instead of removing the taxes on Social Security and protecting our people. They wanted to make a statement, which was, hey, we're in charge, and we're going to make this flag look like a Smolensk flag. And it does. You can compare them next to each other. It just does.
Yeah.
All right. So that's the good news. Now let's get into the other Duluth news. So Duluth had a shooting, and a 37-year-old man was killed, and 2 people were arrested. 2 people came down from Minneapolis to kill this guy. And they shot at another guy. It sounds like it was almost like a shootout happened. And this is what I really didn't want to have the light rail coming from Minneapolis to Duluth because of these kind of things. Let me just show you the perpetrators. So you can see that?
Yes.
So this is from the Duluth News Tribune, who, we'll talk about them later. But this is in the Central Hillside. The victim, Cody Thomas Taliga, found with multiple gunshot wounds. And this is the 100 block of East 3rd Street, not very far from here. Another man, also shot by the same gunman, was uninjured, shot at by the same gunman. That's the guy who put his head around the corner and the guy shot at him. So, so here's some nice stuff happening in Duluth. Glad they're coming up from Minneapolis, or up from Minneapolis to do this kind of stuff to us. Looks like a couple of pretty useful citizens, in my opinion. And guy looks like he might be half asleep, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, from one liberal land that has no consequences for your actions to another liberal land where they don't have consequences for your actions.
Exactly.
and we'll get into another story later about that too. So, but yeah, the ending the rail was just a perfect thing because it stops people from moving into other areas to create crime. So
it definitely is, I think, a good thing for Duluth. It's too easy for these guys. If it's not that easy, they won't do it. It's the path of least resistance for these guys. So,
correct.
in a related shooting incident, 2 are dead, 1 injured in Chisholm. Now, the interesting thing to me about this one was they had a shelter in place order come out at 1:30, and then they removed it, I think, at 3 or 3:30 in the morning. There is absolutely zero description of the guy or the person who did the shooting at all. How can they have somebody in custody? They said they have all the people in custody they need to. How do they not have a description of who it is? It seems very, I mean, it doesn't even attempt it. So I don't know if this is shoddy reporting or if this was just they're not giving that information out. But at least in the article, I would expect to see, we tried to get this information, but we couldn't. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out of this because this is pretty big. 2 dead, 1 injured. That's a big shooting.
Yeah, especially in Chisholm. Chisholm's a real small town, so something like that happens. That's big news.
Yeah.
They'll be talking about it at the water drinking hole, local drinking hole for a long time. So
yeah, for sure. And then moving on to some more Duluth news. Mik Mayou he already said he's not going to run again, but now he's sold his house, so he's got to move away and he's got to vacate the position. So there's already 3 people signed up for his position since he said he wasn't going to run. And now the city council gets to choose who's going to take over the place. But I think it's really interesting, this picture they put of him on here. Protect our only home. He's out there protesting. So what are we going to get? Another typical liberal? I think this guy was in trouble anyway, because if he would have tried to run for re-election, this is his district that had the church where they just sided with the homeless people and had to give them a shelter as opposed to the people that filed a lawsuit against it saying it was illegal and they were doing things improperly. So he already sided with the homeless people. So I don't think he was going to be winning anyway. So he's getting out before the posse shows up. But
I heard his wife had some medical issues that he had to tend to, so he was doing the honorable thing and moving out. But
I don't know the background of it, and that's fine. I mean, you got to move. You're not going to represent your district anymore. You should step away.
Yeah.
He made the opinion he wanted to. He said if he had his way, he would make sure that they did point at somebody who's not already running. But you know what? You don't get an opinion anymore. And unfortunately, he didn't step away before he had this vote for allowing the homeless people at the church in Kenwood. But he got that in before he left.
Right. But he, at least he did a little bit of an honorable thing by admitting that he is leaving the area and he's not going to be he can't represent the area anymore because he's leaving. Yeah. Which is at least an honorable thing. But even if you applied to running for his position, that doesn't automatically put you in the running for the city council appointing you to that position. Right. So you have to do a separate application to actually get into the city council for them to be appointed. So,
yeah, they just have to elect him within the city council, right?
Yeah, but so I don't know if obviously those 3 people are, in the district, therefore they could represent him, but we'll see who actually applies for the position early. So
I don't know if do you even apply to be appointed, or do they just seek people out?
Well, that's what the local news said, that someone had to apply to the position, a special application to get appointed to. It's like you're nominating yourself so the city knows that you're willing and able to do that job.
What do you think?
They're not.
You going to sign up?
I'm out of the district, so.
Oh, that's true. I'm in the district. Maybe I should sign up.
Yeah, you probably could do it because you've got you've already have campaign experience you're endorsed by the RNC, so that should guarantee your position in the Duluth City Council.
Yeah, you'd think. I'm waiting for a text from my wife right now.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on. Duluth City Council adding Transportation Commission. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was in a special section of the Duluth City Council minutes. So that they're going to start with the process of starting a Duluth Transportation Commission, which that's their job.
So they're creating a commission to do the thing they don't want to do.
Basically, yeah.
Is that the position here?
Yeah. So that's, we elected you to do a job, and now you're punting it off on somebody else because you don't have the expertise nor the knowledge to, come up with an idea. That's why you started the Lester Park Rehab Commission, to come up with ideas for that. And then when they did, you ignored them. And then, so I don't know what the point of the whole thing is, starting another commission that they're not going to do. And then the other interesting thing that comes from the city council was they just authorized a check to pay for someone for $58,000 plus for the Skywalk report to what to do with the Skywalk. It was 58,000 plus. It was just under, I think it was 58,900 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, this is their freaking job. What are they doing if they're not doing this?
And why would you spend
why can't you do the investigation and figure this stuff out?
Yeah, and why would you spend $60,000? That's a lot of money.
That's over what you do with all that.
Yeah, I mean that's over a yearly salary of a Minnesotan. That's the average salary in Minnesota is $53,000, and they're going to go spend almost $60,000.
For how long? Was it a couple months?
I didn't read the whole thing.
I can walk the Skyway in less than an hour. The entire thing, end to end. I can't believe it takes $58,000 to understand what to do about the Skyway. It's pretty easy. Heat it in the winter would be nice because there's some sections you go through there and you just freeze it. And then it needs some patchwork, it needs some lighting. And then it looks okay.
Yeah.
It would be nice if there was businesses on the Skyway. And sure, there's always a place you can do updated carpet if you look at it, but it really doesn't need much more than that. I mean, maybe extending it out. I mean, going to Essentia, it'd be kind of nice to have that Skyway going out there. But that's going to cost a lot of money. And I don't see how that would come out of a report.
Yeah. We solved it, in 30 seconds?
Right. And extend the hours and get security. I mean, you can come up with a list of this stuff in like an hour. People who actually live down here or work down here could give you a lot of ideas of what they need. And they'll filter out all the stuff that doesn't matter. Because they talked about we need artwork here. And we need the social center. We need a place for people to go and lay down.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, so the city of Duluth should send us a check for $60,000 because we just answered all their questions.
Well, I think so.
You want to study? You want us to write it down? Well, that's another 10 grand. Sorry. I don't have a pen on me.
Man, come on. That's worth at least 30.
Right.
Okay. Anything else in Duluth?
No, there wasn't much going on with the city councils. So.
Okay. Let's talk about this freaking shooting that happened with the Minnesota legislation. The DFL speaker, was murdered in cold blood. Her and her husband, and then another senator and his wife were shot. This psychotic guy goes up and shoots them, and there's no reason for this. I mean, there's just absolutely no cause that politics should ever make you so mad you think you need to kill somebody. It just isn't there. And whoever did this is obviously mentally. It's hard to understand a person who's that mentally deranged. And so I saw immediately that people were blaming President Trump. In fact, I saw some tweets where were just horrible. They're like, this is because of you, and I want to scream at you. And then I see the other side where it's like, this is the guy who worked for Walz, or Walz appointed him. You can't attribute this stuff to any one person. You can talk about the rhetoric, and we'll talk about the violent left rhetoric. A lot of Democratic rhetoric, I think, has to do with some of this, but you can't pin this on somebody. Walz has appointed God knows how many people to different stuff.
Right.
He may or may not know him. Even if he does know him, you don't know a person. I mean, I've known people that have done some horrible things, and you wouldn't know it just by talking to them.
Right.
To blame Trump of all people, that was just silly. So
It
now,
has nothing to do with it.
yeah, and so talking about that and making sure everybody understands, and this isn't groundbreaking. Everybody understands it's stupid. It's stupid to have done this. This guy's whoever did this is completely crazy. Dressed up like a cop, bringing you to the door at 2:30 in the morning, getting shot to death. The interesting things now, having talked about that, it's a really weird situation.
Yeah.
You've got a guy, so he immediately was a suspect. How did this guy become a suspect so fast? That's what I don't understand. Now, what I read about it was, and I've been looking up this to try to figure this out. They said that the police encountered him at the second house, where he shot at the house, and then he shot at the police, and then he took off on foot.
Yeah.
You can see here in the news article here, this is somebody clearly wearing a mask. This is not this person's face.
Correct.
So we don't know. I don't know how you identify that as this particular person if they're wearing a mask. And then everything seems too. This is me watching too many old mystery shows. I've been watching Columbo. I watched all that.
Yeah.
You watch it and you're like, why would he just leave his car there? Like a police car. Why would he just leave it there? You had to show it. The cops get in your car and drive away. You don't run away. Why would you leave the list of people that you're going to kill or you're going after in the car? And then why would you go against these two people first? So if it really was and when they're trying to make it look like it's some right-wing guy who's off the rails, he went against the one woman who voted with the Republicans to stop, to get these bills passed. She was part of the whole deal. Remember when they were doing the special session?
Correct.
And just the leadership and Walz together, and they made deals. Okay, we're going to have to pass this, and if it votes this way, I have inside information that said the deal was if the Democrats no Democrat will vote for it, she would be the one that had to vote for it. That's my understanding. This is before she got shot. Why would he go after these two first? It doesn't make any sense.
I think I know the way they talk, he very meticulously planned this whole thing out. So but my belief is he started with location, and he was starting at one end, and was going to go through and work his way through. But I think they identified him because his plan didn't go exactly as it was. So he went out the back door and started running, but he had to leave his vehicle there. So all they had to do is look up his the license plate and realize, oh, that's who it is. So we need to talk to this guy to find out why. So they went to his house relatively quickly to talk to his roommate, which is another thing that doesn't make any sense.
That's another thing that doesn't track. No.
So there's a lot of questions, and I'm glad the police they found him and they kept him alive. We may or may not get answers to a lot of these questions because there's so many things that don't match up with the things. And the only comment that I could bring is, look at the Ferguson riots, which was outside of St. Louis, Missouri. Hands up, don't shoot. Never happened.
Mm-hmm.
There's story after story. Did not happen. We can't jump to conclusions with this one either.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Let's wait till the trials, get into the trial, find out what's actually happening. Because like Ferguson, Everyone jumped to conclusions, made up stories that were completely untrue. That's what the media is doing. They want to be first to report the story. So
Right.
now they're reporting lies versus facts.
Right.
Just like in Ferguson, which caused
they're
riots.
reporting rumors as opposed to facts.
Correct. Yeah.
The rumors may turn out to be facts, but they don't know yet. I was talking to somebody about this earlier, a couple days ago, and they're like, thank God they found the guy. I said, yeah, if it's the guy, right? You're innocent until proven guilty in this country. I'm not trying to stand up for, if this is the guy that did it, I don't stand up for him at all. But they got to prove it. And it looks like it's going to be super easy, which makes me always suspicious about the whole thing. We got a list. It's his car. He's got his fingerprints. He sends out a tweet to a roommate, which he has a wife and kids, and he has a roommate. Yeah. And that guy couldn't even say I think he mispronounced somebody's name. So I don't even know if I trust this guy. But he tweeted, or he texted him, I've made decisions you don't know anything about, so I may be dead soon. Like, that's an odd thing to say. It's like Breaking Bad when Walter White calls his wife and says you didn't have anything to do with this, to cover.
Right.
There's so much that stinks about this, but ultimately the worst part is some innocent people got shot to death, and other innocent people got shot, and that's just not the way people should be handling things in this country or anywhere. You got a problem, vote them out.
Yeah, and that's in my opinion, that's the best thing to do. You vote them out so they understand right then and there their ideas are not welcome. They're in the wrong path. Exactly.
This is not the way to do it. Because if this starts, then it just becomes anarchy. Then you've got, the lawmakers are under severe protection. They're again removed from everybody. I know some of these Minnesota representatives now, and I got to meet them personally, and I get to hang out with them, and that's the way it should be. You should be able to go somewhere and just have coffee with them and talk to them. But you keep doing, this kind of stuff happens too much, and they're going to be under security guards all the time. And you're never going to see them. Then they get separated away from people, and then they become weird, like U.S. senators are.
Yeah.
So
then we turn into Mexico, basically, where basically you get elected, you just assassinated yourself, basically.
Right. Oh yeah, Mexico. How many presidential candidates got murdered? I mean, there's a ridiculous amount. Even mayors.
Right. The mayors, the councilmen, everyone is just getting shot down there because they've turned into a third world violent country.
Right.
The thing that I thought of the most lately because of this was, he was appointed by Walz, but he never really worked with Walz, so I don't blame Walz for this directly. But you have psychopaths on both sides, the left and the right. So what were the people that he was working with in the state building talking about to get this mental retard to the point where he is going to flip right out? At some point you have to watch your language in or out. I mean, Walz said some pretty horrible things about calling the ICE people to Gestapos.
Right.
So at what point did this person, who was he working with? What was being said at the office that pushed him over the edge? This is how he thought the proper way to fix the problem was.
And it's you hit the nail on the head with that. There's violent rhetoric that makes people do things that are unstable, do things they would normally not do. There's insult. Insulting somebody and making fun of them, that's different. When you're saying things like, this is a threat to our democracy, this is the Gestapo literally throwing people in vans, that agitates people that are, so it's hard to get into the mind of somebody who would go crazy enough to shoot somebody. And we can't think of that way, how that person thinks, because we're not psychotic like that. But it doesn't help to have violent rhetoric where you're agitating them so much. And we're going to come up to a segment here about the effects of that they're having on especially a 74-year-old woman that we're going to show in a second.
Right.
I wanted to show Melissa Hortman. She was the one that was killed. She voted against the having illegals on the Minnesota Care. She was the one person. She was the one vote. She definitely did not like having to do that. That was it sounded like that was a tough thing for her to have to do.
Yes.
She did not believe in it, but she did it for the better part of the state. So I respect that. So,
yeah, she had some. She stood behind what she said she was going to do.
yes.
And I thought the governor was going to stab everybody in the back by not signing it, but he did sign it. So,
well, he was part of the whole negotiation process. So if he would have done that, that would have. So I can see him doing that when the legislation in the Senate come up with these bills and present them to him. But if you're in that negotiation, you say you're going to do it, the people do what they say they're going to do, and you stop, that would have been, you would have seen all the Democrats go against him. There's no way he could have get away with that. So
Yeah,
as soon as he said it was a one-day session, you knew everything was going to pass.
but normally they don't have an end date on the sessions. And this time he had a 7 a.m. the next day end time on the session. So that, which was very strange to me. So I thought he was going to do some backstabbing because, the first bill that was passed was the illegal aliens not being on health care. And then, so he would have got his budget passed, and then he could have vetoed the illegal alien part of it. That way he could have got his way. So everything was done. Then days later, he could have not signed it. And then you need a supermajority to get it done, which they didn't have. So, we've already proved Walz, isn't really that bright. And he might not be even considering running again.
Yeah, that's true.
So he would easily backstab everyone.
Yeah.
That in my opinion, that's what I could see happening.
So here's another angle on it too, right? So they get done with session. Lawmakers can't come to an agreement. Walz takes them offline, so you can't do it in public. They come up with their own deal. They have one-day session. It's basically, it's going to pass. Boom, 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 done.
Yep.
This is the same party that talks about no kings and how an elected president, elected by the people with a popular vote, with the mandate of the people, is trying to be a king for some reason. I don't understand that. But This is the same party that then does something like this, where it's one day, you're going to pass all these things. It's going to be all back-end negotiations. We don't know what the end result is of this. There was probably some other stuff that's going to come out next year that's going to be like, well, now that we got that passed, we're going to do this.
Right.
So it's a very interesting thing.
Yes. Yeah, I can see some, since the cameras no longer allowed it to be, public, I can't even imagine what backroom deals got done to line their own pockets, basically, or so.
So I want to talk about just something, and I'm not saying this is a different person, but I want to show people who haven't seen it just how realistic masks are nowadays. So take a look at this guy's face. And I don't want to show this whole video, but I want to show him throwing this mask on really quick. Just a little bit of adjustment. Look at that. So looking at it on the video, you kind of tell maybe that's not real. From a distance of any sort, like 5 feet, you're not going to know this isn't what this person looks like.
Right.
And I saw men with beards, and clearly men, put on masks that made them look like Asian women, or white guys who look like Asian women. And I saw another one where a white guy put on a black guy's mask, and totally changed your face structure, totally changes your race. And so you got to be really careful about this kind of stuff when you see a video or see somebody walking on the street. But I'm not saying that this is what happened, and that mask is clearly very rubbery mask that we saw in the picture. But I was shocked when I saw some of these masks that they come up with.
Well, according to the news, the senator who got shot and lived, him and his wife, realized relatively quickly that it wasn't a real cop. So they keep saying about how hyper realistic it was, but the guy got close enough to this guy where he actually got into a physical struggle with him, realizing that, hey, you're wearing a mask. Something's not right.
Oh, you can see by that picture of that camera, it's clearly a rubber mask. That was not a hyperrealistic mask. But
No.
when you're looking through a peephole, you don't notice that. And so this guy was so stupid to have gotten caught so easily, but he wore a mask. That just raises more alarms.
Yeah,
So
the first degree is kind of thrown out the window. It's premeditated, definitely.
For sure. So it looks like Moriarty is requesting to go after this guy before the federal agents do. I don't understand. She finally found a case she wants to prosecute. I'm amazed.
Yeah. And, so she wants to throw the book at him, so she'll probably give him 2 years like she gave the other guys who shot person point blank.
Right.
Oh, yeah, she really showed them he got 2 years for killing 2 people. Well, make it 4 years because it was 2 people, and they killed their dog, too. So that was so...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Talking to something about that. I agree. That's unforgivable. They shot a golden retriever. You do not shoot golden retrievers.
Yeah, especially one that couldn't be a service dog because it was too happy.
Yeah.
And so
John Wick moment here.
I mean, I would personally, if I was the federal looking at a record, the feds know that she doesn't prosecute.
No.
She'll work out a deal so he'll survive. So the feds should do exactly what they plan on doing, prosecuting, send him away for life. They have the death penalty.
Good.
They're not going to, if there's a psychopath that needs to be put to death, he definitely applies for it. So
Yeah, you shoot 2 people to death.
yeah,
That could be your punishment. If they can prove it. If it was him.
This is all alleged until they prove it. But
This is pretty tough. Yeah. This could be a very tough prosecution, to be honest with you. I think there may be a lot of circumstantial evidence, but unless they can find his, they can do all that CSI stuff, the gun residue, bullets that can match up. If he still had the pistol on him that he used to kill these people, I mean, this is a bad Columbo episode.
Well, yeah, and then he texts someone saying he was going to do something really bad.
Right.
Yeah, I think this would be a pretty obvious one, but.
So I want to talk. So when we stay in the Minnesota State news, this was kind of the legislation stuff instead. This should be under Minnesota legislation, all the stuff we talked about. But the FBI has located documents which detail alarming allegations related to the 2020 U.S. election, including allegations of interference by the CCP, the Chinese government. So everything that we were saying was true seems to be coming true. It looks like this was an election that was very manipulated. And honestly, I was thinking about it today. What happened to Joe Biden? Right? He got the most votes ever in an election by, like, what was it, 16 million more than Obama got, who was like Mr. Popular.
Right.
And I even know Republicans who voted for Obama. So what happened to him? He popped up and he was gone. You remember when he came up a couple of weeks ago? He went on The View and I think he had the talk. Like, you got to go away. But this is interesting. I mean, if the Chinese are manipulating elections and you're scratching your head on how Tim Walz got elected, well, he is the Chinese, we'll talk about it in just a little bit, but China is like, he's buddies with China. He loves it there.
Right.
So maybe that explains why Tim Walz could win elections here in Minnesota when nobody else seems to like him.
Yeah, even the Democrats that I speak with, they don't like him either. So where is he getting his votes from?
And I don't know if it was that before the presidential election or after it, because before the presidential election, not a lot of people knew what he was like. We were sitting here talking about it, before we did this show, we'd talk about Walz and how he was tied to China and all this stuff. But other people didn't seem to know about it. But when he ran for federal office for the presidency, it came out. So I wonder if the people that don't like him now were the same way before he ran for vice president.
Yeah, because it just showed how manipulated the press was and how much they were on his side.
In Minnesota, yes.
In Minnesota, yeah, because once the Nationals got a hold of him,
yeah,
that was the end of him. Basically, the truth started coming out of the way he actually was.
Right. And we'll get to Tim in just a second because we have a whole segment on him. But I wanted to, in the spirit of Minnesota legislature, I wanted to show what happens in other places. This is the Oregon House had a drag show in recognition and honor of Oregon's rich history of black drag. If my elected officials are spending time doing this, I will vote them out. This is incredibly weird, isn't it? But here's the problem. Could you see this happening in Minnesota? I could.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Not with a split house, but last year, 2 years ago, I could definitely see something like this happening.
That all it means is they've solved every single problem in Oregon.
Yeah, right.
They have nothing else to worry about, and so they need to honor something. Hey,
clearly Oregon is on top of everything for sure.
Yeah, I mean next year it'll be black drag, and then the wheel in the wheelchair, or amputated leg. Something. We had to get a third in there. We have to get a third minority segment in there to one up this year's.
They're running out, man. They just, I don't know what else they're gonna do pretty soon. All right, let's move on to we'll move on to Tim Walz news. When I come up with the graphic that we're going to display at the beginning of the show, and I've told you before, Dave, that I'm resisting doing those kind of pictures, and I'm just trying to find something that we can do. And I looked through the list of stuff we're going to talk about, and I was like, yep, Walz came up again. And one of the pictures I have, or the picture I used, is one of the ones that we had on here, but he's just, I don't know. Maybe I do want to be elected again because we just have material all over the place when he's in office.
Yeah, I was wondering when they're out of session, what are we going to talk about? But Tim Walz being Tim Walz, he'll find a reason to give us time to stay in and talk about him.
All right. So tell me if you can give me the thumbs up if you can hear the audio on this. Let's hear what Tim had to say about the military.
And whenever I come out here, I take great joy in running my mall route and down around the monuments or whatever, and it was horrific down there today. I'm just going to tell you, it just looks wrong, feels wrong. And so I think I'm going to go be with a few thousand folks who kind of have the tradition that there is a separation there, that we don't need this, and this is not Pyongyang on a Saturday. So I'm just going to confess to it. Might get me in trouble, whatever. I have never so hoped for rain in my life. So, there you go.
So this is him talking about the military parade because, apparently something like that is horrible to have a military parade.
Yeah.
So Tim, although he was in the Army? I think it was the Army.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah. The National Guard. Yeah.
He just wants rain. He'd like to be miserable. It's just him being him. It's so you.
Yeah, I was looking into that, and I found one piece of information that was interesting. That President Trump did nothing to do with the parade. The permit was originally applied for a year prior, before someone from the Biden administration applied originally for that parade for the 250th anniversary.
Really?
Yes. So this was a Biden plan. So let's quit with the blaming Trump. I did find, according to Snopes, that he made it bigger than it was originally, but This was not a Trump plan to put it on his birthday. This was a Biden plan to put it,
Well, it just so happened it was on his birthday because it was the 250th anniversary of the Army, right?
Correct. Yeah, it just happened to be coincidence.
And they, it just so happened to fall on his birthday. He had this military parade. I don't think it's a bad thing. I mean, the reason that the Russians used to do it is to show their military power, to kind of flex, and it's good for recruitment of the military, which I guess they need, and it just is something. I know it's hard to believe, but people want to feel proud about where they live and have a little bit of pride. I know that the Democrats, and maybe not Democrats, but liberals in general, seem to want to self-loathe the country. Nothing is ever good enough. Everything is bad. Yeah. Like my grandpa used to say that every once in a while. If grandma was complaining about nothing is good, he would say all the time. That's where their pocket. They love to be miserable. They hate the country. They will go out of their way to support Ukraine, to support Iran or Israel, to support Palestine, to support the Mexicans here that are here, not even Mexicans, but just illegal aliens in general. Right. I say Mexicans because they're flying the Mexican flag for them. It's everybody but us. It seems like, can't you be proud of yourself? And then if you want to help other people, that's fine. But if you are miserable here, if you think everything's bad here, what are you doing to fix that here first? And try to be proud of yourself.
Yeah. And there's actually nothing in America that's holding you from leaving.
It's true. Except it's hard to immigrate to other countries. The other people have standards. Try to go to Canada if you have a DUI. You can't even get into the country.
Right.
Try to go there and get a work permit. Try to get, if you want a work permit there, you have to prove a lot of stuff. What your job is, what you're going to be doing, length of time. It's not an easy process in any other country. I don't know why people think that we should be that much different. We should be harder to get into. Everybody wants to come here.
Yeah. Yeah. Just adopt Mexico's immigration policies. That'll basically put an end to immigration. So
exactly. Let's move on to the next Walz thing. And this is what we were talking about for the violent rhetoric kind of stuff. This is Walz talking, and I'll play the whole thing.
Called out on this because I called Donald Trump a wannabe dictator. It's because he is. It's because he is. Oh.
So he's talking about him being a dictator. You know what that implies? I mean, who's dictators in your life? Hitler is the first dictator you ever think of, but there's plenty of others. Benito Mussolini and Pat Paul. And so
North Korea.
Now he's already dehumanizing him because that's what you have to do to get people to be really angry.
The governor's being mean, and the governor's speaking out on that. Well, maybe it's time for us to be a little meaner. Maybe it's time for us to be a little more fierce. Because we have to ferociously push back on this. And again, I'll speak to my teacher colleagues in here. The thing that bothers a teacher more than anything is to watch a bully, to watch this bully and to stop it. And when it's a child, you talk to them and you tell them why bullying's wrong. But when it's adult like Donald Trump, you bully the shit out of him back. You push back. You make sure they know it's not there.
This is what we're talking about. This is what we mean by, hey, you got to stop this violent rhetoric. That is calling to arms. These people are getting pumped up. He is basically saying you've got to be meaner, you got to get in their face, you got to do something. And if you're already a little mentally imbalanced, that just gives you the green light to go.
Yeah, and that's what causes this joker to go after our politicians.
Right.
Because he was on the edge and he just needed that final push, and stuff like that is what pushes this guy over.
Right. So we both said it, and we didn't talk about this before, but we both said it independently. I don't blame Walz particularly for this shooter that killed these lobbyists. If it was the guy they said, even though he pointed him to something, doesn't matter. He didn't. That's not him pushing him. That's not him knowing him personally.
Right.
But this kind of rhetoric is the problem. This is exactly the problem. You got to tone it down, cool it off. If you don't like somebody, you got no choice with Trump. You got 3 more years with him, and then he's done. He's not going to run again.
Right.
Even if it was constitutional for him to do it, the man's going to be 82 years old. You got to stop sometime.
Right.
He's put himself through a lot of problems in the last 10 years. Maybe it's time for him to hopefully he can set up the right people, get the right mental attitudes. I'm seeing a lot of good changes coming in the country right now. Hopefully that's happening, but you just live with it and try to make Minnesota better. Don't go to, where was he? South Carolina, I think, when he was saying this. How about us? Where are we? Do we even count anymore? I think about that with the governor. I think about the city council. I think about the former president, the senators, everybody, the mayor saying, hey, let's make the front door of the Duluth deck is the ocean front or the lake front where everybody comes in. No, it's us. It's for us, the people that live here. It's first here, then secondly then.
The one thing about that video that I was that caught my attention was he keeps complaining how masculine he was, yet he used the word fierce. I'm sorry, men don't use the word fierce. That just sorry, it doesn't work that way.
You reminded me of Mr. Roper on Three's Company. That's funny. Let's see. I think we got one more thing here. Oh yeah. I missed one that was. I'm not going to show the video of it. President Trump. They said, "So, are you going to call Governor Walz about the shooting thing?" He's like, Governor Minnesota. He's whacked out. I'm not calling him. Why would I waste my time?
Right.
That was pretty funny.
And he's true though. Why would he call him?
No. Yeah.
He has no reason to.
Yes, I agree.
They caught the alleged shooter. He didn't. Walz had nothing to do with it. We had a system in place where the city police, the county, the state police, the federal authorities, they figured it out. They got involved. Everyone worked together, and they should be congratulated at capturing who they believe is the shooter. Yeah. And I was a little amazed that it took them this long, but still, they had a job to do and they did it perfectly. So, we can,
job to them.
Yeah, we can congratulate them on doing excellent work.
Yes. Let's go on to the next Timmy thing. Tim says, he argues that China may possess the moral authority to help de-escalate the Israeli-Iran conflict. So we haven't talked about the Israeli-Iran conflict because that's going to be down in the international news. And this is the picture I used, by the way, for this show. I just love it.
He's got the fierce hand. He's got the fierce hand going.
The fierce hand.
Fierce.
He's probably saying the word fierce right there.
Yes, exactly.
So he doesn't believe America has the moral authority to do it, but he believes China has the moral authority. Does he even know what China does as a government? Does he know the history of it? I question now if this guy even understands China and what it does as a dictatorial communist country.
But I think he understands it, and that's what he wants it to be. That's why he liked the trifecta, because he wanted to be, the dictator of the state, basically.
True.
And this one, now that it's a split house, he can't, and he's not too happy about it. Now he's off the deep end. So,
right. All right. I think that's it for this. Now we want to go to Minnesota news, unless you have something else you want to talk about.
No, we just got to thank Walz for comic relief. That's all.
It's like, yeah, really, I don't want him to go. I do want him to go for our sake, but at the same time, he's just newsworthy. All right, let's go on to the next fantastic person. I almost want to make a segment for Illian Omar.
Yeah.
So let's just play her little video. Minute out here.
To be coming out of our country. I mean, I grew up in a dictatorship. And I don't even remember ever witnessing anything like that. To have a democracy, a beacon of hope for the world to now be turned into one of the worst countries where the military are in our streets without any regard for people's constitutional rights.
I'll stop it right there. So we're turning into the worst countries. And the military is in the street without regard to people's constitutional rights. What is she talking about?
Yeah.
Because the military is in the street does not mean they're violating your constitutional rights. And I think the military was deployed to California because of the riots and to stop them from destroying everything and destroying homes. Like the BLM riots were 4 years ago where they didn't do anything. Trump has learned that you have to stop this quick, otherwise it spreads.
Yeah, and according to the law, Trump can't automatically send the National Guard in unless it's to protect the troops or to protect the local police officers, and that's what he did.
Yeah,
he wasn't there trying to stop the riots as much as he was protecting the law officers who are frontline, putting a stop to the riots.
Yeah.
While our president is spending millions of dollars propping himself up like a failed dictator with a military parade.
A failed dictator. So he's not a dictator? Or is he a dictator? I don't get it anymore. I don't know where she goes.
That's the violent rhetoric again.
Yeah. And the way this woman wants to spend money and the way the Minnesota legislature likes to spend money before this we got evened out, to even talk about spending money is ridiculous with these guys. But it always comes down to it. As soon as they're not in power, everything comes down to the cost. How much is it going to cost? This is ridiculous. When they're in power, anything goes. They just print millions.
It is really shocking, and it should be a wake-up call for all Americans to say this is not the country we were born in. This
is not the country you were born in.
Yeah. The country we believe in. This is not the country our founding fathers imagined.
Well, we're back to founding fathers, Dave. My God. Well, it's like I'm living in crazy land. I can't believe she's actually saying this. Notice too. Oh, this is a Trump rally, so there's American flags. I've noticed the American flags at the rally. So let's.
And this is not the country that is supported by our Constitution, our ideals, our values. And we should all collectively be out in the streets rejecting what is taking place this week.
So she doesn't back anything up. She just spouts rhetoric. This is unconstitutional. In what way? I don't think there's an answer for that.
Well, yeah, and then the media is not doing follow-up questions to find this stuff out either.
Right. And the thing is, what she said at the beginning, I lived in a dictatorship and this is worse. Well, you fled that dictatorship. Maybe you should flee this place. Go back to your home country, back to your world. She was granted, and I'm going to bring up some other quotes from other people that are reacting to this, but this is just insulting. She was a refugee. She went to Africa. She was granted the golden ticket to come to America. She comes here. Somehow she wins an election to be a representative. We shouldn't have any foreign-born representatives in our government, but she wins
Correct.
that. She has the prestige. She's been in there for a long time, and still she craps all over us all the time.
And if you listen to her some of her old speeches, she's trying to get Sharia law imported into U.S. law.
Oh, I wouldn't doubt that.
Yeah, so you're trying to the country you supposedly left, you want to turn America into, and then you're blaming Trump for trying to screw up the Constitution.
Right.
She wouldn't even be talking if she was if she was in her country.
Yeah, if she gets her way, she's out of office and she's back in the house. DC Durango, go find me another first world country where a Somalian immigrant who married her brother is sitting in elected national office. makes a good point.
Yeah.
That's not what I wanted to show. There was other. Let me see if I can find this real quick. So there was other responses to her. Florida Attorney General James Uthmeyer wrote in response to her comments, denaturalize and deport. He just wants to get rid of her.
Yeah, I think that's a common thread. So,
and still someone keeps electing her. This is a staggering ingratitude. So there's a whole article here that I'm going to post about it, but yeah. Denaturalize and deport.
yes.
Yeah, maybe go back to Somalia then. That's what I just said.
Yeah.
And then
if you don't like that country, go fix it.
exactly. Yes. Go bring some of your, you've been trained here to be a leader. So go on, go back, fix it.
Yep.
What a disgrace this person is, J.D. Vance says. This isn't just sick, it's actual genocidal language. What a disgrace. Our country should be more fearful of white men because they are causing most of the deaths within this country. Will she back that up? No. But she'll say it, and she'll get her. Well, look at this, too. Fearful of white men. They're causing the most deaths. So, yeah, this is, again, going back to crazy person hears this and says, well, we need to take care of that. And then this is what happens.
Well, after she got into this country, did you know she married a white man?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So she married someone that's fearful to her.
Yeah, like AOC is the same way. She's dating a white guy.
Yeah.
I wonder what those guys think. They're like, what?
Yeah, Kamala Harris said the same thing in the debates. Well, but you married a white guy, and then he cheated on you. You kept him around. Hillary found out her husband cheated on him. She kept him around. These powerful female leaders certainly won't stand up to themselves. So,
All right, I got one more thing in this section before we move on to the violent left. This Twin Cities chef is closing restaurants and he slams the soft on crime leaders. This is madness. It's interesting because he said, when did loving your city and wanting it to be safe become something people roll their eyes at? But that's what it has become. And I think it's getting better now. I think we're actually healing, which is nice to see. But this is not Minneapolis. They still got this whacked out city council there that is just running these laws crazy. And that's why I want to try to separate Duluth from the Twin Cities, because we don't need that infecting our city. It's bad enough here the way it is.
right.
He described calling 911 twice in the past month, only to be told no officer could respond. He says, of course, crime is down when you can't file a police report. He's absolutely right. This is the same thing. They talk about all their crime statistics are down. People just don't call the police anymore because it doesn't do them any good.
Right.
At the Gnome in St. Paul, he said someone intentionally set the fire to the deck. We have them on camera lighting it. Then he said, and yet I was told I couldn't file a police report. At Apostle Supper Club, a smashed front door met a similar response. I was told to just go online and fill out a form. I asked to speak to an officer. Dispatch said no. So this is Minneapolis, and this is the future. As long as you're soft on this kind of stuff, you just give them an inch, they'll take a mile. You've got to stop this stuff. I'm not saying to go out and look for problems, but if there are problems, deal with it. And I saw a Florida officer talking about the riots that he knew were going to be scheduled in this last Saturday thing. And he said, if you break the law, we will put you'll go in jail. Yeah. If you break the law and run from us, you'll go to jail tired. If you throw a brick at us, you're going to go to the hospital, and then you're going to go to jail. And then if you shoot at us or try to knife us, we will tell your families where to pick up your remains. I mean, that was pretty straightforward, and that's how you maintain control.
Yes.
You got to watch it so it doesn't go over the edge, so that the cops are going, too far. But if you're throwing a brick at them or spitting on them, how do you expect these guys not to respond to that? They should be able to respond, in my opinion.
Yeah, and most states did change the law about spitting. So you spit on an officer, that's the same as assault. I don't know. I didn't look that up in Minnesota, but I know other states they did it, which is good. You spit, that's what diseases get thrown around in your spit.
Yeah,
so
it's assault. I don't know how that's much different. Somebody spits on me, I'm not going to talk. Well, that's not good,
right?
All right. So let's move on to a segment we like to call the violent left, which I don't even think I put a tag up for yet.
Yeah, we don't have a.
Here, watch this.
We don't have a banner for that one.
Now we do.
Oh, excellent.
That's StreamYard, man. Like that.
Just like that, yeah.
So let's.
As long as you know you would use it, yep.
This is what I'm talking about. This is a state people have people's mental capacity on. And this isn't the only person I've ever seen say this.
I'm just so scared. I'm 74 years old. I worry about everything. And I just am so scared and upset, and I don't understand why people voted for this person.
That just says everything. I mean,
yeah,
she's 74. She shouldn't be worried about this stuff, but you can see she's terrified. She's in tears.
Yeah, and she's getting her information from the media, which is not telling the truth. So now she's terrified.
Yeah.
And not to go back to this moron who shot the senators or the Minnesota House people, but you get someone that's that close to the edge already, and you're pushing them over the edge by your lies. It's very simple, and it could be right or left. It doesn't matter when someone's that unstable.
Yep, you got to watch yourself if you're doing these kind of things like on YouTube. You got to watch what you're saying. You got to make people understand it's not the way to do it. Stand up for that.
Yeah.
But if we talk about violent left, we're going to talk about this. I got a video I'll post of 2.5 minutes straight of Democrats calling for violence. So I'm going to play a little thing. And this comes down to, again, why we do the show is that some people never see this.
I just don't even know why there aren't uprisings all over the country. Maybe there will be.
It's going to be giving me problems, I guess. All right. Well, I'll post this video, but it's interesting to watch it. It's interesting to watch Nancy Pelosi and
people need to start taking to the streets. This is a dictator.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
Enemies of the state.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
That one was the most interesting thing to me. He's basically out calling, saying you could go out and destroy things.
Yeah.
Do something about your dad's immigration practices, you feckless.
When they go low, we kick.
How do you resist the temptation to run up and wring her neck?
The biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right.
By the way, wasn't his boyfriend a white guy?
Yes, definitely.
Another one where he's like, what? What are you saying?
Yeah.
I thought he should have punched him in the face. I said, even if you lost, he insulted your wife.
Yes.
He came down the escalator and called Mexicans rapists and murderers. He said, well, what do you think I should have done? I said, I think you should.
He called Mexicans rapists and murderers. That was another nice little lie the media had.
Yeah.
Punched him in the face and then gotten out of the race. You would have been a hero.
I'd like to punch him in the face. I said if we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
Punch some people in the face!
When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a bullet in Donald Trump, and that's a fact.
Look as his character is stabbed to death.
Where is John Wilkes Booth when you need him?
This is what pushes crazy people over the edge.
Yeah.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
A Missouri state senator is under investigation by the Secret Service after saying she hopes President Trump is assassinated.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Maxine Waters is one of the worst.
Yeah.
She just spews stuff, and I don't even know if she knows what she's talking about. She seems like one of the dumbest people I've ever seen.
If you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, she's saying to actively go out there, find people who are eating in a restaurant, and scream at them.
Yep.
Sadly, the domestic enemies to our voting system and our honoring our Constitution are right at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that this isn't, they're not going to let up, and they should not.
If you think we're rallying now, you ain't seen nothing yet.
That crazy?
Yeah, and then they sit there and blame the right for doing the same thing. I've never heard that on the right, but it's pretty common on the left. And so you can see why this nut job, went after and shot people.
Right.
He was right on the edge. And
here, look at this mental disease right on camera.
No! 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 Dog! Bad boy! Bad! No!
Psycho.
Yeah.
And this is they got. They want. And they got to watch it. They'll get people's blood up. They'll get people going. And they'll make people afraid. And that's not right. It's not, and it's constant agitation. So if you're always constantly in that state, you're easy to be manipulated.
Right. Yeah. And that's their old thing is you manipulate them to vote for you instead of presenting them with proper policies that will improve their lives.
Right. One thing I want to bring up. Go ahead.
And to me, that's the worst thing about Trump being president is he's going to make the left's lives greater too. He's going to make everyone, you can't separate. He's going to make everything better. He's going to start creating peace. He already lowered the inflation rate. He's starting the economy's starting to turn around, but they get a joy, they get joy out of that too. They're going to benefit out of all the stuff that he's doing.
Dragging him,
but they still hate him.
To a good time.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else on lefties?
No, I was just thinking about the No Kings rally, and we just had an election. There is, the U.S. doesn't have a king, so for next week's protest, they will be protesting against no Bigfoots. We have to keep 100% effective. Yeah, they got to get rid of all the Bigfoots. Jack Link beef jerky is not going to like that. Their mascot's not going to like it. But however,
horrible. They
need something to protest against. So this last week it was no kings. Next week will be no Bigfoots, no Sasquatch. A couple weeks from now, maybe like no Loch Ness monsters. Something like that. We have to keep the protest going. And give them something to put on their signs.
What's amazing is no king's protest. We don't want a king.
Yeah.
You put a candidate up with absolutely no primary, with nobody voting for her, and you were going to install her as president with absolutely nobody to vote for. Bernie Sanders, you sidelined him not once but twice because he wasn't the candidate that your party wanted.
Right.
You invalidate David Hogg as the DNC deputy. Nope, going to get rid of him. And then you just have a fake election and do that internally. You had Trump removed from state ballots. Remember that? They were trying to remove him from the actual ballots. They were actually trying to put him into jail or at least get him as a federal convict so he couldn't run for president. This is all the same party that says no. And this is the same party that has this royalty. Nancy Pelosi's been in office how long, and how many of her relatives? Gavin Newsom is like her nephew.
Yep.
And then you look at the dynasties. You had the Bush dynasty. Hillary Clinton. Why was she even in office? It was because of Bill. So it strikes me as very odd about having a No Kings rally from a party that it seems to be just destined to want to have kings and royalty and communism.
Yep.
So,
yes, I seen an article I didn't post, but it was two things. The DNC really does not like the direction that the DNC is headed. Like 63% said they don't like how they're reacting to current events and stuff like that. And the second article I didn't think we had time for was they don't really like Ken Martin, who was the former Minnesota head of the Democrats. They don't like him because he's weak. He's not as masculine as fierce Walz. Yeah.
Oh God! All right, we're an hour and 16 in, and we haven't even gotten to national news yet. So we're going to start like we usually do, start plowing through some of these things. In the vein of talking about the fake masks, I want to show this. I just want to make people aware of how good fake videos are. This is all fake AI stuff. You can't tell. I mean, except for the fact that, my God, that would kill her. But this is the state. Look at that liquid when the sound is creepy to me. But when you are watching videos or looking at pictures, please keep in mind it might be fake. I mean, maybe you could eat a gold bar. I don't know. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, we discussed this about. I sent you that one thing about AI because I was asking how expensive. Because I seen an article that I was trying to verify about how expensive the No Kings rallies were, and it didn't mention anything about. I asked AI, and AI said, "Well, Trump spent this much money." Why didn't Trump was never even in the sentence? I wanted to, So someone's controlling. So that was Google AI, and it's like it's obviously being manipulated. So you can't trust AI either.
Right. Okay. We'll move on from that. I just wanted to show that. I'll have a link in here. I want to go on. I'm going to skip one, and I want to go back to it. But this Alex Padilla, he's a senator. He goes to this conference by Kristi Noem. And I'll just show this really quick. I don't think I'm going to show the whole video, but.
It's never too early to start thinking about summer.
I didn't want to show this one. So he goes to this thing, and he's there for a couple minutes. She's just going through things. She's talking, giving this news conference. And he wants to go interrupt her. He wants to go storm aggressively. He was going towards the podium. Now, it didn't look like he wasn't, jumping up and he wasn't going to go to storm the can do anything to her, but he was going forward and they're telling him to stop. He's in a place he shouldn't be. He's interrupting somebody doing a press conference. He's obviously trying to make a story out of it. And they take him out and they put him in cuffs. They took him out and, he was like, unhand me and taking him out in the hallway. And then he resisted and they wanted to put him in cuffs standing up. He resisted that. They put him on his knees. He resisted that. They put him on his stomach. They put him in cuffs. And apparently, then he identified himself as a senator, and they let him go. And first of all, he's complaining about now how horrible it was that a U.S. senator was put into cuffs and put on his face like that. Why? You are a citizen of the United States, just like everybody else. I don't see how they are exempt from that when they're doing something in that regard. If I did that, I would be in cuffs. If you did it, you'd be in cuffs. Same thing. They treated him very respectfully as a person. That they, you got to listen to the cops when you're doing that and you're going against something. You've got to know when to stop. And he didn't know when to stop. And he did that on purpose so he would get arrested, so he couldn't make a big deal out of it. And hearing him shaky voice talk about it and how horrible it was. Well, they think they're at the echelon above everybody else, and they're not. And they got to get that through their heads.
Yeah, I seen him talking on the Senate floor, and he couldn't, no matter what he did, he couldn't fake a tear. He couldn't. So his whole story was all crocodiles because he couldn't actually. So the basic theory behind the whole thing is this whole thing was intentional. He intentionally wanted to cause a problem, intentionally wanted to get on social media. So he intentionally got attention for himself.
Yeah, for sure. Clearly. And if people can't see that, then you got to start paying attention.
Yeah.
If you're buying into it that this was some just spur of the moment thing, he knew exactly what he was doing. He did this on purpose.
Correct.
So we'll go on from that joke. I'm talking about the Chicago mayor. So remember Beetlejuice used to be they called her Beetlejuice. I can't remember what it was. It was such an appropriate name. I mean, she was just, but and this is my fear about Tim Walz leaving. It seems like you're getting rid of this really horrible person. They seem to find even worse people, and they're still voting the same party, and it's the same horrible cycle. But this Brandon Johnson is the mayor of Chicago, and I'm just going to show this.
Yeah, they said he was worse than her.
He is. He is an outright racist, and he made the statement that investing in black is not a criminal act. Well, it is if you're solely investing in black people as a government issue. Now, if you want to talk about it in general, if you want to start your private organization, do this, that's your prerogative. Yeah. You are the mayor of a major city, and you can't just dole out money to people because they're your race. And that's all it is. The only reason he's fighting for that is because he believes that this is going to get him the votes he needs to stay in office.
Yeah, he's just basically buying votes. And the Constitution is pretty clear. You cannot separate by any race, gender, blah, blah, blah. And he's separating by race, 100% illegal. But, if he's just trying to buy votes, so someone's going to believe him enough to vote him back in. So
I honestly want this guy to spend time in jail for this. This should be something that you can prosecute somebody for. You're a city official. You obviously know it's unconstitutional to do what you're doing, and go forward with it anyway. There should be some consequence to stop other people from doing this, because if he gets away with this, it's going to be just open the floodgates.
But even in Minnesota law, it says that politicians can lie, legally lie, because you can make campaign promises that you'll never get to come true, but so they consider that a lie, but because it's a campaign promise that you have no choice over, somebody else turned it down, so they made it legal.
Yeah, but this isn't a campaign promise. This is him sitting in office saying he's implementing these things.
Yeah,
completely.
That's completely wrong. Needs to go.
Moving on to a multimillionaire who happens to be a senator who's actually never held a job in his life outside of being in the government. Bernie Sanders. I want to applaud all the patriots who will be participating in, as I will, in the No Kings rally. Americans believe in freedom, not authoritarianism. Again, more rhetoric, more violent rhetoric The 1776 brave Americans took on and defeated the most powerful despot in the world. We're going to do the same. So he's openly calling for what? A revolution? Because that's what happened in 1776.
Right.
So this is Bernie Sanders again, useless idiot in office. And the funny thing about this is it looks like he's standing on a walker to me. Feel like he's going down the hallway of a mall trying to get his walk in.
Yeah, but he's all for socialism. I don't know that much about socialism, but isn't a socialism sort of a rule by one authority, king, a dictatorship?
Well, if in practice, everybody's equal, except just like Russia, just like USSR, some people were more equal than others.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And the biggest problem with socialism, as we've talked about, is you eventually will run out of other people's money to spend, and then you're screwed.
Yeah.
I'll move on to Mark Levin. You know who Mark Levin is?
Yeah, he is a commentator for Fox News.
Yeah. So I'm going to show just a little bit of what he's talking about, and we haven't talked anything about the Israeli-Iran conflict yet, but he's talking about what people. There is no rift in MAGA. MAGA supports Trump, and then they go on to support Israel, and you better like it or not. I know from what I've read with Mark Levin, I think he's a bright guy, but at the same time, I don't think he's the right guy to talk about what MAGA is. Now, I'm not saying I am. I don't think anybody. I think this is more of a generic thing. This isn't just a one rules kind of thing. And as soon as you start putting people into different groups that set across from each other, that's how you stop a good movement like this. So, but my point is Mark Levin, he's not one to look to find out what people in this movement are thinking. You can look at his policies, you know exactly what he's doing.
And he's just a commentator, just like Rachel Maddow. So you can kind of.
Oh, man, that's just mean.
You kind of put them in the same league as,
right.
You have to hear what they say and then think about it and then research it. And
right.
So,
but I would prefer it if you would say things like, I don't think this is right, or this is what I support. Not, if you don't like this, you're not MAGA. Who are you to say that? Who am I to say that? Nobody's can say that. Just because I think somebody, should think the some way, I go, well, you're not MAGA. Shut up. Just tell your own opinion and leave it at that.
Yeah.
Here's something that I wanted to bring up that I do not agree with, which is Trump, and I don't know if this is true or not. I just watched this in Breitbart, and I don't know. Who knows how accurate it is. Trump plans a white-collar migrants for minerals trade deal with China. So if you're going to import a bunch of Chinese nationals who are of military age just for minerals, I don't think that's a good idea. I think we need to kind of hunker down with our own educational system here and train American citizens, not Chinese citizens. Chinese citizens are coming from a dictatorial communist government controlled system, and they're going to take our stuff and they're going to go back and make their country better. We don't need to do that. I don't think China's our enemy, but they're certainly not our friend.
Yeah, and we just talked about last week's show about they just arrested a couple of Chinese people for trying to biowarfare our crops.
Yeah, the second or third set of them trying to do that.
Yeah, so trusting them would be a very, very bad idea.
Right. I'll just do a couple of these without having to bring it up, but Los Angeles, they're now demanding that the federal government pay for all the damages caused by their coddling of rioters. So rioters get out of control. They don't do anything about it. And they got out of control because ICE agents were going and enforcing the law. I think they were going against some child molesters, honestly.
I think so, yeah.
And these people are destroy the city, and then government of California says, you got to pay for it, feds. No, that's coming out of our check. That's not our problem. That's California's problem. And maybe if we don't get bailed out this time, like Minnesota did, because as soon as Biden came in, Walz was rewarded for letting the cities burn.
Yeah.
If they don't get rewarded for it, maybe they'll take a different approach next time. Maybe they'll try to stop it before it gets to be out of hand.
Yeah, actually let the police do their job instead of handcuffing them.
I saw this other thing that it said that Sweden, I think this is one, for the first time since the 1960s, Sweden's conservative government has registered more migrants leaving the country than entering, with asylum applicants at the lowest in 25 years. You know how? They took away the benefits.
Yeah.
Direct correlation between taking benefits away and migrants not trying to invade your country, because they prefer to live with their own people, which makes sense.
And people that want to be part of their culture instead of bring their own culture in.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Minnesota's doing the exact opposite. Hey, if we give all these illegals free health care, then that's not going to make them, they won't come here for that.
Right. No. Why would they?
Will. Only 3 times what they expected.
Right.
You know, people registering for free stuff. So
I'm going to post this from the Gateway Pundit about how liberal economists manipulate immigration statistics to hide the truth about America's job crisis. And it's a pretty long article, and you can read it. It's pretty interesting to read. But basically, it's talking about how the immigrants are driving prices down for American wages. And then they say, when people say Americans don't want these jobs, the truth is they don't want them at those wages. Why do years of hard training for a $22 an hour trade job when you can work at Walmart or McDonald's for $16.50 in air conditioning? They make a good point.
Right.
But I also saw that when ICE came in and raided a business, it was one of these, well, Americans won't do that. They took away all their workers, and they had a deluge of people applying for those jobs. They can't find jobs.
Correct.
And that's just the manual labor stuff. I don't even talk about, high tech jobs. It's very tough for somebody who isn't on a visa status to get a job anymore. They're actively keeping us out.
Yeah. We're back to the basic law of supply and demand.
Right.
It's been true. It's even true in communist countries. People aren't going to work for a certain amount of money. That's just the way it goes. So,
and we talked about it too, where it's like you stifle innovation. If there's a problem, sooner or later somebody's going to figure out a solution to it. But they're not going to do it. Well, there's an easy fix, which is slave labor from other countries coming in here, paying them in cash for a lot less than you'd pay an American union worker or any other worker. And then if you cause any problems, you just call ICE and they take them away.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very, very easy concept to understand. Just look at your cell phone, look at your cars, look at your TVs, look at everything you have in there. There is nothing in your house from Russia, a communist country, or they have absolutely no incentive to invent things.
Yeah, when it was the USSR, you get a job creating stuff that nobody needed.
Yeah, you're just working for the government, and if you create something great, you still work exactly for the same. So that's why there's no incentive to do anything, because the government is handing you everything you supposedly they think you need.
Right.
So
speaking of manipulation of statistics, Biden administration claimed to have added almost 400,000 jobs from July through September. But when they did the crunching of the numbers, it shows 1,000 private sector job decline during that period instead. And it was one of those don't believe your lying eyes kind of thing. Yeah, we could see it happening, but nope, that's not happening. It's fine.
Well, yeah, we're back to the three types of lying: lies, damn lies and statistics. How to lie with statistics. And that's what all that was.
Oh, I think I told you about my statistics class once. The instructor came in the first day and said, if you only have an hour to live, take a statistics class because it'll seem so much longer than an hour.
Yeah.
And we've talked about money laundering before, and I'm not saying that's unrelated.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying this is happening, but hey, guess who got a $2 million advance? The woman who can't define what a woman is. What's her name? 8 of the 9 justices on the highest court have filed their annual financial disclosures. Ketanji Jackson got a $2 million book advance. So how are we talking about money being laundered to the people? It's through book deals.
Yeah, and Nobel Peace Prize, that's another one. There's $1 million for winning a Nobel Prize. Right. And even though Trump, created the peace accords on the Middle East on his first, no, he didn't get it, but Biden or Obama did on his second day of office. He got one.
He got it before he got into office, I thought. I thought he got it before he even took office.
Yeah, it was right in that. It was like 2 days in, and he won for solving climate change problems, which
it was just the anticipation. The anticipation is so great. All right. I got nothing else for national news. We should move on to international news because we're getting really long here.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about the Iran-Israeli conflict going on right now. So my understanding, now you can fix me where I'm wrong here, Dave. Israel bombed Iran. They basically set them up to be in a certain location, a bunch of their leadership to a certain location, and they bombed the bejesus out of it, killing many of their leaders.
Yeah. So far, that's what I heard.
And so Iran has responded with missiles. Some are hitting, some aren't. And I saw this as a response. And it says, they're effing turning us into Gaza. So I believe you walked up to somebody and punched them in the face. And now you're acting in horror as they come up and try to punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Now, I want to be completely clear about this and try to be as consistent as possible because I think consistency is very vital. These are two countries we have nothing to do with, and we should stay out of a conflict between the two of them because they're fighting each other thousands of miles away from us. I said the same thing about Russia and Ukraine. I'll say the same thing about China and Taiwan, and I'll say the same thing about these guys. Now, Taiwan is under somewhat of our purview because it's in our vital interests that they don't fall. So I can see us getting involved with that. Israel and Iran, I don't think either one of them are going to fall unless we get involved. And the only way that one of them is going to fall is going to be Iran. It's not going to be Israel.
Right.
The reason Israel did this is because they said that Iran is going to be, it's weeks away from having a nuclear bomb, which sure can't allow. They've been saying it. I saw a newsreel of Netanyahu saying this for the last 30 years.
Right.
So either they're always just that close and they're stopping them, because I know they bombed them before when they were getting close, or it's just a reason to bomb them. But in my opinion, I think we should stay out of it. We're going to get involved. We will sell weapons to Israel. We won't sell them to Iran because they are clearly against us. But until they attack, and even then, if they attack us, make sure it's a real attack by that country and not some false flag set up to get us into a conflict. And stay out of it. We don't need our boys and women dying over there for yet another conflict in the Middle East. That's my take on it. I know that some people say that makes me not MAGA. I think Mark Levin doesn't like me because I'll say that. Yeah. But I'm not taking one side over the other either. And I'm not saying that Iran is the good guys. I mean, I know that them having a nuclear weapon is a bad deal. Israel has one, apparently, but it's supposed to be secret and against the law as well. But keep us out of it. Please keep us out of it.
Yeah, I mean, basically that's what I heard too. That Iran was about 3 weeks away from having a nuclear bomb, and they're so psychotic that they would actually use it. So it's good that they don't have it. However, what are you basing that information on? We went into Iraq because of WMDs, and we didn't find anything. So your information was wrong. So how do you know that this is true? At what point, does this become true and something else is not true? We've already been wrong too many times in the past. But they would use it. Israel's a small place. They would basically wipe out all of Israel if given the chance. So, tell us what they've learned. What's changed in the last 30 years? Besides Obama giving them $110 billion.
And my understanding is they asked Trump if they could do it, and he said, "I don't think you shouldn't do it." So they did it anyway. So you did it. You punched them.
Yep.
Expect to get punched back, and don't expect us to come back, especially if it was, if Trump said don't do it. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and who attacked Israel prior to that? Is it Palestine?
Yes. So that was last year or two. God, it's been over a year.
Yeah. Hamas went after them. So now they're getting into a second war with another group.
But they're promoting this one. So they were attacked by Palestinians last time. Now they're attacking Iran, and it's constant. This conflict over there is constant. If we keep getting involved, it'll keep going. Sooner or later, it's got to stop. And we can't just spend trillions of dollars again in the Middle East. It has nothing to do with us.
Yeah, unless we have a plan on being there for less than a month, like the first Iraq war.
Yeah, if you're going to go there and you're going to spend all this money, start building oil wells and shipping the oil out for us, because it doesn't come free.
Correct.
You used to do a war to take land and take fortune. This going into a country and destroying it and then walking away from it, like we've done for 4 or 5 countries now, doesn't make any sense to me. Maybe that'll stop the war. And you see this disgusting Lindsey Graham salivating over a war. That guy, I do not understand how he gets elected either. There's so many of these officials, I can't understand how they get elected anymore.
Right.
Watching him is creepy. He put a skin suit on. All right. I want to do one more international news, and then we'll move on to health and fitness. Is the irony. So I'm not saying all illegal immigrants come from Mexico, but not only from Mexico, but through their border. They're protesting against Central American immigrants invading their country. The audacity. So they can't get into America. So now they're just staying in Mexico, and these guys are protesting against it. You can't have that. We don't want your illegal immigrants here. I know I don't think there's sound for this, but that's fine. Look at that. It's like they want to keep their own country and they don't want to just give it up to people coming in the border illegally. Crazy talk.
Where's all the flags from other countries? Like in,
that's
in
right.
the LA riots.
I can't tell if this is in America or in Mexico.
Yeah.
And okay. So anything else with international, or should we move on to finish it up here? We're going to be below 2 hours for sure.
Yeah, we should probably finish her up tonight.
So I want to say I found this article and I found it was really nice. There's a woman that is going to do a 5K, her first race in 50 years. Or I'm sorry, a 50-year-old woman, but her first race since high school. And she was going with her boyfriend, and he said, do you want a gym membership for your birthday? It's great because he said, no, that's not the end of their relationship. But yeah, I mean, she lost 86 pounds by doing this, and she's going to run in her first race. And hats off to her. Good job for her.
Yeah, that's great. Not the smartest boyfriend, but you know what?
You took a real risk. Yeah, that was a choice for sure. I want to say that Sam's Club is removing some ingredients from their Members Mark stuff because of MAHA, which is Make America Healthy Again, which is Robert Kennedy. So removing more than 40 ingredients, including artificial colors. And this is all from its private brand Members Mark by the end of the year. Great. That's good. Good for them. Good for us. I saw this other article about it, which was all these fast food places were saying they were going to start doing this too, which is good. I mean, all the food I saw was horrible for you, but at least it's horrible for you with less horribly deadly ingredients. Let's see. I wanted to just mention something just kind of in general that isn't kind of an article. I'd like to encourage people to, as I drive around the city or walk around, I encourage you to try to take care of yourself a little bit. I think if you're down, if you have mental illness, or if you are depressed, still get up and take a shower at least every other day. Try to make yourself look better. There's a lot of people I see that don't look very happy, and they just have one thing in common. They just look horrible. They look disheveled. They don't take care of themselves at all. I know it's a struggle sometimes, and I'm not a mental health expert, but I think it does help when you get together, shave, if you're a guy, shower, at least a couple, at least every other day. It does help. And pay attention when you're out there too. I was driving into work today and I had to take a right. This is by UMD. And so I'm looking naturally to my left, and this is early in the morning, usually nobody out. I look to my left for traffic, there's traffic, and a girl walks in front of my truck. And I would have looked to my right naturally, but some people don't look to their right. They're just going to go because they don't assume anybody's there. And the thing that struck me was the girl wasn't looking at me at all. She was looking over to her right. So keep in mind that when you're driving, you got to make sure that the people understand that, you're going to get hit.
Right.
And sure, it's not going to be your fault, but at the same, because the driver should be yielding to you, but still keep some mental awareness, keep alert. That's just my advice. It's some things that struck me today as I was driving in.
Yeah.
What's this about Billy Joel?
Okay, Billy Joel had to cancel his tour. Last month or so he was diagnosed with a brain disorder.
Oh no!
And I didn't write the brain disorder down. But it's a known side effect of the COVID vaccine. So if you but the thing is, it comes across as dementia.
Oh no!
Yeah. So if you had the vaccine, if you've taken the COVID vaccine, and you're showing signs of, mental fatigue, constipation, a bunch of other things, where they diagnose you as dementia, make sure you tell the doctor, yeah, I've had the COVID, because this is one of the side effects
of the vaccine, of the shot.
Correct. It's
I
basically
calling a vaccination. You know that.
Yeah, it's a shot. It's not vaccination, but basically there fluid buildup on your brain, and that can be surgically fixed. He's going to be okay. He had to cancel his whole tour because of it. So, if you have the vaccine, look for other things other than just, dementia. That's what it shows. But, you're going to have to be a doctor for yourself on certain things. I thought that was a pretty interesting article on. We've got that. Yeah, it's sad. But he was falling during some of his performances, and he was getting very upset about it. And he couldn't remember things and blah blah blah, which comes across as dementia. However, it's not. So
Right.
when you're speaking with your doctor, make sure you tell them you had the vaccination and you look at the signs of the vaccination. So
It's funny because kind of related. I didn't mention it today, but I had a list of stuff. I had a throwback from 2022 where there was an article that talked about how people who didn't get the COVID shot were more linked to auto accidents. They were going that far to try to convince people to get the shot. I was just like, that whole time period is it's a very stark reminder of how easy it is to manipulate people. It really was.
Well, right,
Well,
and that it kind of goes back to Minnesota during COVID and Walz and the No Kings rallies. So, he was a dictator, shut the whole state down. He fired people that didn't get vaccinated.
Right.
He, Billy Joel's got a brain disorder because he was forced to get vaccinated. Well, he wasn't forced, but he got vaccinated. You lose your job if you don't.
Right.
And you're complaining about Trump being not a king.
Yeah, exactly.
We lived through a dictatorship, and you see how bad that was.
We even saw the mayor of Duluth do it a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, she's no longer here. All right, I'm going to end here. We're getting close to the 2-hour mark. I do not want to get up to that because I don't get my AI stuff. I want to mention we talked about it last week, and I went to a place called Duluth Farming Company, and I got some hamburger, and I got some steaks, and I got some beef sticks, which I have actually right here. And I'm not getting paid for it. We're not getting any residuals for this. They didn't ask us to do this. I'm doing this on my own, saying I went to this place, the local place in Duluth. You can get some beef that they've raised themselves. There's a good. It's made out of good stuff. It's made out of whole beef, and I urge you, if you like that kind of stuff, to check them out. They're very good. They have a lot of stuff. You can get a lot of cuts of steak, hamburger. I think they have soap, and super nice people too. So check them out if you want to. If you don't, just wanted to bring them up. So I think that's it, Dave. We have a wrap for this week.
Yep.
All
A lot
right.
of things covered.
Well, let's do it. Shaka. Hang loose, everybody. If you're in Duluth, Duluth no Kayoi, Maui no Kayoi. I'm saying that horribly, and I got to learn how to pronounce it. But basically, what it comes down to is we're the best, and that's what you should be looking at. We're the best. We're going to do good things for us, and really
let's Saturday.
Yeah, and enjoy the Saturday. Enjoy the time. I can still see it's foggy down here. So, congratulations. Welcome to Duluth. You never know what you're going to get. All right. We'll talk to you next week. Another week of Duluth Conservative. Please like and what do they say now? Smash that like and subscribe button. All this stuff that people say. It's silly. But yeah, please subscribe if you like it. Leave comments. If you have information, please get a hold of us. And if you'd like to be on the show, please talk to me. Until next week, I'm Sean.
I'm Dave.
And this was Duluth Conservative. We'll see you next week. Thanks for joining.